So, what is priming? Well, the technical definition is how recent or current events passively affect your internal readiness. So basically that means an idea is stimulated in your mind, and that concept affects your perceptions, your motivations, even your behaviors. Carl Lastly is the first person to use the term priming in 1951 to describe the state in between when you're thinking about doing something and actually doing it. In the 1960s, Segal and Kofer used priming to describe the effect of a concept used in one task and the probability of that same concept being used in a subsequent task. There are many different types of priming. Subliminal priming occurs when the stimuli is presented in a way so that it's not consciously processed. One example of this is in 1957 when James Vickery claimed that he increased Coca-Cola sales by 18% and popcorn sales at the movies by 50% by projecting the words "drink Coke, buy popcorn" onto the screen. Now obviously this upset a lot of people because what does this mean? I have no free will? But later this was found to be a hoax. But in the past years there have been many studies supporting that subliminal messages can influence your behaviors. In my experiment I used supraliminal or conscious priming in the form of a scrambled sentence test. Supraliminal priming is when the participant is fully aware of the stimulus, but they don't know of the possible influence it can have on them. It's not like in subliminal priming when a word is flashed on the screen, but the person doesn't really know that they saw it. In supraliminal priming, in my experiment, for example, I gave my participants a scrambled sentence test that had the words in it. They knew they were reading words. They knew they were rearranging sentences. They knew somewhere in their mind that the words were positive or negative, but they didn't know that I wanted these words to affect how they perceived the man in the picture. The scrambled sentence test is also a form of concept priming. Conceptual priming is when an ideal is presented in the first task in such a way that the participant doesn't realize that there's a connection between the ideal of the first task and the action in the subsequent task, which in my case is the effect of the positive or negative stimuli of the scrambled sentence test into the description of the man in the picture. There's also direct, indirect, mindset, and sequential priming. I'm not going to talk about those though because I did not use those in my experiment. If you're interested in priming and you want to read more, this article, Studying the Mind in the Middle, A Practical Guide to Priming and Automaticity Research by John A. Barge and Tanya L. Chartrand is really good. It's really good for a beginner in layman's terms. It explains a lot of basic definitions. So if you're interested in priming, this is a really good article to start with. You can find it very, very easily on Google Scholar.